In this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step framework to help you get unstuck, to help you gain clarity, motivation, direction, and to start to take massive action towards your biggest goal so that you can start to go from merely surviving to actually thriving. If you've been feeling lost, stuck, lacking motivation, direction, or accountability, maybe even just feeling generally unfulfilled, you've come to the right place. Or maybe you've achieved some level of success, but you still feel like something's missing. Maybe you've got the house, the car, the career, and the steady paycheck, but you're lacking the joy, the fulfillment, or that deep sense of meaning and purpose. Well, by the end of this short video, you're gonna know exactly what needs to change so that you can begin to build momentum, start making good on your potential, and go from just surviving to actually thriving. I'm gonna break down everything into simple, actionable steps, and I'll share a few key insights that most people completely overlook when making meaningful change in their life. And finally, I'll share the one thing that's absolutely critical for creating and maintaining sustainable change over a long period of time. But before we dive in, I want to acknowledge something really important. If you've been feeling stuck for a while and maybe tried different approaches but haven't been able to find anything that's stuck long term, that's okay. And the truth is, it's not your fault. And the reason I say that is because, unfortunately, none of this stuff is taught in school. So if you're struggling with fear or doubt, or you're frustrated that you're not where you think that you should be, you can stop beating yourself up, because chances are you've probably already done enough of that. But the fact that you're here tells me that you're ready and wanting to make serious change. And that is the first step. And to be honest, I wish that I knew all of this 15 years ago, back when I was still stuck and spinning my wheels, struggling to find direction, meaning, and purpose in my life. Unfortunately, I learned these things much later, and I oftentimes wonder how much further ahead I'd be had I learned this decades ago. You see, I firmly believe that time is our most precious resource. Most people have a tendency to prioritize money and put it above their health, maybe even their happiness. But money is an infinite resource. And the truth is, there's no limit to the amount that you can earn. Money come, money go. But time, on the other hand, is one of the few things that once you spend it, you are never getting it back. And that's why every year that's spent in self-doubt, negative habits, or overthinking or procrastinating is another year that could have been spent building a life and a future that we're proud of and stepping into the person that we know that we're capable of becoming. And that's why getting unstuck and taking action now is so important, because life is way better when you're in control, doing what you love, and living with purpose. Take my client Aaron, for example. When we first started working together, he came to me with a good job, but was lacking meaning, direction, and real purpose. He knew that he was capable of more, but he didn't really have the tools, the strategies, or even the accountability to really break through. After working together, he's developed better habits, gained clarity, and built systems for success. As a result, he sharpened his vision for his future. He's got a pay raise and a promotion. He moved into a new house, he's gotten engaged, and even started prioritizing his physical health again. Now, it didn't happen overnight, but now he's got the mindset and the habits to thrive for decades to come. Or Jamie. When we first started working together, she was stressed out, maxed out, and working a job that she despised. She knew in her heart that she was an artist, and she would have loved to have done that full time. But deep down inside, she didn't even know if that was possible for her. But after working together, she decided to go all in on her dreams. She quit her full-time job and started to pursue her art and her passions full-time. And now she's able to have the freedom and the flexibility to work for herself. She's earning more money than she was at her day job, and her art is selling all around the world to places as far away as Dubai. And then there's Mitch. Mitch had a solid career and was making pretty good money, but he wasn't sure about his long-term career path. He wanted to be self-employed and earn more money, but he was letting fear and doubt hold him back. But all he needed was a little bit of direction, support, and accountability to really unlock his potential. After implementing the tools that we worked on, he had his highest earning year to date, got into the best shape of his life, both physically and mentally, became self-employed, and now has way more control over his time and his finances. Or Janelle, when we first started working together, she struggled with self-doubt, overthinking, procrastination, and self-sabotage. But now she makes decisions quickly and confidently. And she even started her own business to earn some extra income on the side. And they're not alone. Dozens of people who've gone through this exact process, starting out feeling stuck, lost, lacking motivation, direction, meaning, and purpose, only to emerge on the other side feeling empowered, positive, and consistently taking inspired action on their biggest goals and finally starting to live life on their terms. Like Andrew here. If you're watching this, Andrew, I love you, mate. Or Tamara, I gotta tell you, I still have so much respect and admiration for you. Or Brett, you're the man, and I'm so happy to see that you're thriving in all aspects of life, brother. I'm really proud of you. Honestly, I wish I could go back 15 years and give myself the same advice and insights that I'm about to share with you today. So grab a pen and paper if you haven't already, and be sure to take plenty of notes, because this is going to be a game changer. It's transformed my life and the lives of so many others, and I know that it has the power and the potential to do the same for you. And make sure you stick it through all the way to the end, because I have 2 options for what you can do moving forward to continue your journey. But before I go any further, I want to be really clear about something. This program is not for everybody. If you're looking for a quick fix, a get-rich-quick scheme, or a magic pill, this is not for you. And you're welcome to stop this video now and go try to find somebody who doesn't have a problem over-promising and under-delivering. This is for people who are ready and willing to commit to taking action and making positive change in their life. The process that I'm about to share with you, it works, but it's a process and it takes time. It's not an overnight transformation, but if you commit to the process and you follow the steps, you will see results. Of course, we have some clients like Cade who saw dramatic results in a very, very short period of time. He was able to master his thoughts, control his emotions, and make better decisions, which allowed him to create more clarity and direction and have a bigger impact and serve more people in his business. But that was because he was open-minded. He took immediate action and applied what we were learning. So if you're looking for somebody to promise overnight success, this isn't the place. But if you're serious about making lasting, sustainable change in your life, let's dive in. So what qualifies me to teach this? Well, that's a long story, but I'll try to keep it brief. I used to own and operate a private personal training and wellness center called Fit Training and Wellness. And while most personal trainers were focusing on big muscle groups like your quads and your pecs, I realized really quickly that the biggest muscle that needed to be trained was the one between your ears, your mindset. And when people would come to me saying things like, hey, Matt, I've got this problem, I need to lose 50 or 60 pounds, I realized that the weight wasn't the actual problem. The truth was that it was a symptom of a mental or an emotional matter. And oftentimes when we address the mental and the emotional matter, the weight itself just melted off. And so that was what initially inspired me to get my life coaching certification way back in 2014. And as a result, I've helped countless clients lose 40, 50, 60, even upwards of 80, 90, or even 100 and 125 pounds. It's mind-blowing. But we didn't do it with the latest exercise program or the newest nutrition plan. We focused on their mindset, their habits, their beliefs, and their subconscious patterns. You see, mindset is everything. And when you change your mindset, everything else in the outside world begins to change as a direct result. And when COVID happened in 2020, I transitioned my business online to focus on mindset and personal development and serve more people around the world. Now I have clients across Canada, all the way through the US and as far away as Australia and even India. And at the time of this recording, I've helped dozens and dozens and dozens of people all around the world get unstuck and start to go from just surviving to truly thriving using this exact same process. So if you're a coachable person and you just need the right tools, a little bit of direction and support to stop spinning your wheels and to step into the person that you know that you're capable of being, follow through, because this video is going to help you do exactly that. So let's do it. But in order to get unstuck and go from surviving to thriving, it's absolutely critical that you understand something about the mind. Now, let me ask you, you're aware that you have a human mind, right? Right. And I always get some awkward looks and some funny laughs when I ask that question. But I'll follow it up with another question, and that's, how much do you really know about your own mind? And that's typically when people are kind of caught off guard and they realize, well, actually, I don't know all that much about my mind, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And the reason I say that is because we're in possession of one of the most advanced pieces of biological technology known to mankind. And most people, one, don't know much about it, and two, aren't sure how to use it to ensure optimal results. And if you think about it, this thing is responsible for all of our decision making. It's also responsible for helping us to create our entire life, and most people don't really know what to do with it. And I'm of the belief that the more that I know about my mind, the better I can use it, and the better I use it, the better results I get. Now I want to introduce to you my good friend the stick man here. This diagram was first invented by a man named Dr. Thurman Fleet back in the 1930s. You don't have to remember that, except for the fact that this diagram has been used over the years by countless mindset coaches, including Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor, to illustrate two things. One, it helps us to understand the human mind, and it demonstrates how thought energy moves through a human being. Now, has it ever occurred to you that thought is a form of energy? Well, it is, and that's important to know. And the reason that's important to know is because all energy operates according to law. And what does that mean? Well, it means that once you understand how energy operates, okay, it's very predictable. Once you understand how it works, you can harness it and begin to direct it for a specific purpose. Just like electricity. Once you understand how electricity works, you can harness it and begin to use it to power the lights in your house or even your car. Okay. Well, thought is no different. All right. Now, psychology tells us that the human mind consists of two parts. Okay. We have our conscious mind, which is oftentimes referred to as our logical mind. This is our part of our mind that we read books for, that we go to school for, that we fill with all kinds of facts and figures and data and information. Okay. But we also have our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is oftentimes referred to as our feeling mind or our emotional mind. All right. Now, just a real basic psychological premise here. Our thoughts have a tendency to control our feelings. Okay. That's why when you have a happy thought, you typically have a corresponding happy emotion. Right. Now, our emotions or feelings go on to influence the actions that we take, or in some cases don't take, right? And then depending upon those actions, it's going to produce a specific result in our life. Can you see that? So it stands to reason that if you want a different result in your life, you really only need to do one thing, and that's go back to the source. And when you change your thoughts, it causes you to change your emotional state. Okay, which inspires new and different actions. And then based on those new and different actions, it's going to produce a different result in your life. Can you see that? It's like the law of cause and effect. Okay, this principle works when it comes to your finances, your fitness, your career, and even your relationships. Same process, different application. Okay, in fact, there's this old adage that when you change your thoughts, you change your life. And it's true. And this is why it's true. Okay. The challenge, however, and this is where it gets interesting, is that the average person has about 60,000 thoughts per day. Okay. Give or take. Now, some people, I know you're sitting there saying, oh, my mind goes about 1,000,000 miles an hour. It never stops. Okay. But on average, it's about 60,000 thoughts per day, which sounds like a lot until you learn that about 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. What do I mean? Well, I mean that 95% of the thoughts that you think today are also the very same thoughts that you had yesterday and the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. We have a pattern of thinking or a habit of thought. Okay? Now, let's just pause there for a second. Because if you think even for a second that your life has anything to do with the thoughts that you think, well, your future is not going to look a whole lot different than today unless you start thinking different thoughts. Can you see that? The other thing is, of these 60,000 thoughts per day, okay, typically 80% of them are usually pretty negative. Now, it might vary a little bit depending upon the person, but chances are, if you're being honest with yourself, you probably recognize that a lot of your pattern of thinking is oftentimes caught up in either fear or doubt or lack or limitation, maybe stress or anxiety, overwhelm, or complaining or criticizing either your circumstances or your situation, or maybe even yourself. Okay? And part of what I do and part of this process is to turn that negative default setting to more positive. Okay? Now, the last thing here is that most of our thoughts throughout the day are typically unconscious, meaning that most people aren't even really thinking too much about what they're thinking about. They're just kind of going about their day, doing their thing, largely on autopilot. 95% of our thoughts go below that level of conscious awareness. And there's a term in psychology that we use called metacognition. And metacognition is quite simply the process of becoming more aware of some of our unconscious thought patterns. Okay? Now, sometimes people will say things like, well, knowledge is power. Okay? But the truth is that knowledge is only potential power. And knowledge is only powerful once it's applied. And usually there's a very big difference between what people know and what people actually do. And the reason might surprise you, okay? But it's true. And the fact is that our conscious, logical mind really only accounts for about 5% of our behavior. It's scary, but it's true. And the truth is that 95% of our behavior is actually controlled by our subconscious mind. You know, people are always surprised to learn that, but if you're honest with yourself, you might recognize that, you know, oftentimes most people act emotionally based on how they're feeling in the moment. And then what they do is they have this tendency to layer on logic after the fact to justify their actions or make them feel better about the choices that they made. It's easy to see that in other people's behavior, but we're all guilty of it to a certain extent. Okay? But the truth of the matter is that 95% of our behavior is controlled by our subconscious emotional mind. Down here we have our feelings, okay? But we also have our beliefs. I always say that beliefs drive behavior. And, you know, chances are that some of the beliefs that you have and hold are positive, okay? And chances are, if you're a human being and alive on planet Earth, that you also have some negative or limiting beliefs as well. Now, we also have a little thing called a paradigm, okay? And a paradigm is essentially what you can think of as like a belief system, okay? And the truth is we have beliefs about all kinds of things, everything from work to money, to food, to exercise, to sex, relationships, cars, and tattoos, okay? We have beliefs about everything under the sun, all right? But a large part of your paradigm is what's called your self-image, okay? Now, your self-image is exactly what it sounds like. It's your thoughts, your attitudes, your beliefs, and your perceptions about who you think you are, what you think you're capable of, and what you think you're deserving of, okay? Your self-image is formed very specifically between the ages of 0 and about 9 years of age. In fact, I believe it was Seneca who said, "Give me a boy until age 7 and I'll show you the man." Partly because he understood the power of those formative years. Okay? And here's the thing. Your mind operates just like a supercomputer. Okay? And your subconscious mind is the program that it runs. And your subconscious programming takes place between those ages of 0 and 9 based on a number of different factors. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because you cannot outperform your self-image, all right? One of the strongest forces in human nature is the desire to remain consistent with our unconscious thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions about who we think we are and what we think we're capable of. Now, let me give you a little analogy to explain. Your self-image operates exactly like a thermostat. Now, what do I mean? Well, chances are that the thermostat in the room that you're sitting in right now is set to a specific temperature, okay? Now, the actual temperature of the room might fluctuate a little bit up and down depending upon what's going on outside and the weather and that sort of thing, okay? But that thermostat is set to ensure that that temperature remains fairly consistent and within this band of comfort, aka your comfort zone, okay? Well, your self-image operates exactly the same way in the sense that your results in life might fluctuate a little bit up and down depending upon circumstances and situations. But your self-image works around the clock and behind the scenes to ensure that you stay within this band of comfort, your comfort zone. For example, many of you have probably either known someone or maybe even tried this yourself, set a New Year's resolution and tried to start exercising more, eating better, and lose a little bit of weight. Typically, people are pretty good for a couple of weeks, a month or two max. But usually what happens? They put it all back on again and then some, don't they? You may have even heard that the statistic that about 70% of people who win the lottery end up filing for bankruptcy within about 3 years. It's crazy, but it's true. And you might wonder, how the heck is that even possible? And the truth is that their outside results no longer reflect their internal beliefs about who they think they are or what they think they're capable or deserving of. And so they unconsciously revert back to old habits and old patterns, self-sabotage, and ensure that they continue to produce the same old results. Now, it's sad, but it's true. And unless we create a change in your self-image or create what's known as a paradigm shift, people will always unconsciously self-sabotage and revert back to old patterns, old habits, and continue to produce the same old results. And the worst part is, you won't even realize it until it's too late and you've already undone all of your hard work and effort. And here's the thing, there are really only two very powerful ways to create a shift in your paradigm or change your self-image. And again, if you've got that pen and paper handy, I would highly suggest that you write this down, because if you're able to grasp what I'm about to share today, this information has the potential to change your life like night and day. The only two ways to create a paradigm shift are, number one, a strong emotional impact. Now, this could take any number of different forms. Okay, but the truth is, it's usually a crisis of some sort. Now, it could be some form of hitting rock bottom, okay? But it could be like a health scare or a near-death experience, or maybe even the loss of a loved one, okay? But it's when you're backed into a corner and now things are so bad, you don't have a choice. You have to make a change, okay? And the thing with that is two things. One, it's always negative, okay? And two, it's always outside of your control. Life is forcing you to start to do something different. The second way to create a change in your self-image, or what's known as a paradigm shift, is through repetition of thought combined with elite level coaching. It's repetition of thought, okay? And just to be really clear here, This is not about reading another book or watching another video and acquiring more information or intellectual knowledge that just stays up here in your conscious, logical mind. Like I said, there's a very big difference between what people know and what people do. This is quite simply about immersing yourself in the environment and repeating thoughts over and over and over again. And when you start to surround yourself with people who are motivating and inspiring, the movers and the shakers, the dreamers and the doers, that kind of energy is contagious, okay? That'll take you further than a book ever could. But I want to be really clear here, okay? Unless we create a paradigm shift and a change in your self-image, unless we reprogram your subconscious mind, you will always revert back to old habits, old patterns, and continue to stay stuck exactly where you are, producing the same old results. And so when I say create a paradigm shift, that's not the kind of thing I think that I can help you with. That's the kind of thing I know that I can help you. And that's exactly why I created Thrive 360. And the sole purpose of Thrive 360 is to help people go from surviving to thriving personally, professionally, physically, and mentally. And Thrive 360 is based on three very distinct and powerful things. The first is applied psychology. So it's understanding how your mind works. And I always say that your mind can be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy. And you've got to learn how to control your mind. Otherwise, your mind will control you. And chances are, if your mind's controlling you, it ain't going to be pretty, okay? So it's taking conscious control of our thought processes, identifying our beliefs, attitudes, and perceptions, okay, that are holding us back, and reprogramming our subconscious mind to help you move into a future that you're excited about. The second part is just as important, and that's about creating a strategy, okay? It's not all just theory or talk, okay? It's about where the rubber meets the road. And together what we do is we set some specific tangible targets and then reverse engineer an action plan to help you get from where you are to where you want to go, okay? And then the last part is so important for so many people, and that's the accountability, all right? And people who invest in coaching ultimately achieve their goals 5 times faster than people who don't. And the reason is really simple, is that statistically, you're 800% more likely to follow through on a task when you're accountable to another human being. So this is exactly how you get out of a rut, get unstuck, and go from surviving to truly thriving. But now you're at a crossroads, and essentially you've got 2 paths in front of you. The first is you can continue to keep on doing what you've always done, but what's the definition of insanity again? Keep on doing the same thing and expect different results. Or you click the link below and book a discovery call to have a real conversation to see if working together might be a good fit. When you join Thrive 360, you'll be a part of a powerful community of people who are all on a similar track to learning, to growing, to improving, and stepping into the best version of themselves. If you put in the time and commit to the process, I promise that this has the power and the potential to change your life like it did for me and so many of my clients. But here's the truth. It only works to the level that you work it. And here's the truth. If it's important to you, you'll find a way. And if it's not, well, you'll find an excuse. So if you're ready to make a change and you like the extra support, direction, and accountability, use the link below to book a call. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have and address any concerns. And lastly, if you made it this far, that tells me that you're somebody who's capable of finishing what you start, which is already better than most. I can't wait to help you unlock the next level of your life. Let's go.